All right, well, I have 7:06, and we told y'all this was going to be 10 to 15 minutes of conversation. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, and other folks can join in as they will. I want to thank you for coming tonight. My name is Megan Lee, and I am filling in for the fabulous Fontaine Kohler, who is the Cub Scout Advancement Representative for Atlanta Area Council. She had a commitment that popped up after they scheduled this meeting, and so she asked, and I was happy to step in and fill in for her. There's no way I can fill her shoes, but I can do my best. She has a document she's prepared. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to kind of talk through the things on the document. I find anybody who's here who has a question while I'm going through, please feel free to, raise your hand, but not really because I can't really see you raise your hand, but go ahead and unmute yourselves and ask if you've got questions. I'll read through the document and then we'll have a period for question and answers at the end. I'm sharing this and I'm going to make this slightly larger because I have old lady eyes. All right. So big changes kind of for the AOL program this year. The Arrow of Light program, I'm sure everyone here knows, if you haven't heard already, is now separate from the Weeblos program, and things kind of started fresh June 1st. It is specifically for Cubs who are in fifth grade with all of the Cub program updates that rolled out June 1st. Everything is now based on grade, and most of that was intended to help reduce confusion. Because if you weren't involved in scouting and you got asked whether your cub was a Weeblos or an AOL, you went, I don't know what language you're speaking. So we're hoping this makes it a little easier. Rank advancement as of June 1st for all ranks, including Era of Light, includes 6 required adventures and 2 electives. And the 6 required adventures are all kind of fit into the same categories. And they include a newly envisioned Bobcat rank, because Bobcat was a rank, but now it really is just an adventure. So there's a Bobcat adventure at every rank that focuses on citizenship. So that is something that is new and different for AOLs this year. It involves visiting a Scouts BSA troop, which is has been part of the program for AOLs for a long time. So many of the things that we knew as AOL parents before and AOL leaders before are there. They're just in different places. The other changes that happen for AOLs kind of happen for Weeblos. We're putting off changing into the khaki and olive uniform until they become AOLs, hoping that then that buys you another year. So maybe your uniform you buy as an AOL will fit you your first year in scouting. So we have a little less change there. We're also looking for crossover to happen a little earlier than has happened with the AOL program. We are encouraging PACs to cross their AOL Scouts over in December, January, or early February. And this comes really to kind of help our troops out as well. We've got a timeline presuming February crossover. So we've already made it through August. So hopefully you as leaders have made relationships with your scoutmasters and senior patrol leaders with troops in the areas. If you haven't already met your unit commissioner, please reach out to them. They can help you connect with those people. You want to work with your scoutmasters to get some den chiefs for your AOL dens. Your den chiefs are going to be key in helping teach your scouts about the patrol process that they're going to be involved with them when they become scouts. You're going to visit one new troop. You're going to invite your scoutmasters and SPLs to casually attend your pack and den meetings just to kind of get familiar with your scouts. Again, we're looking to make the transition from Cub Scouts to Scouting America to Scouts a little less traumatic or make it feel a little less like it's a brand new thing. You want it to be with people that you know already. And you're going to ask troops to give your AOL Scouts with a calendar of their events for the year. This is going to help your families with their planning. Part of the AOL requirements are to go on some sort of a camping trip. So it's always a good idea to be looking at planning a fall camping trip with a troop. If you can't plan it with a troop, at least plan one with your den. In September, we're going to be working with our den chiefs to plan requirements and electives at den meetings. The 6 and 2 is entirely doable, but it does take some planning to get done September through December for your meetings. Ask them to start including your Cub Scouts in their newsletters and schedule a parent orientation because we know that scouts are important, but parents are important too. We want to make sure families are prepared for things like spring campouts and summer camping. Continue planning your fall camping event and making sure that your AOLs are getting integrated in that process. Hopefully in October you have a camping event, although camping in October gets crowded because everything happens in October. So if it doesn't happen in October, that is absolutely okay. Also in October, we want you to start planning your crossover ceremony. It's a good time to be making those plans. I know when I was an AOL leader, I don't think I started that early, and I wish that I'd done a better job at it. November and December, we're going to start really looking at the time and location for the crossover ceremony, lining up participants. And if your pack doesn't have some sort of a crossover bridge, reach out to a unit and see if you can borrow one. And decide on the crossover ceremony run of show and talk with your parents and other adults. January, we're looking at finalizing plans for your crossover, ordering food supplies, preparing scripts, all of those fun things. Check with the troops and purchase scout handbooks for your AOLs if your troop doesn't provide them. My pack one year bought handbooks for all of our scouts, and then they all crossed over to troops where they were gifted a handbook. So we had handbooks galore floating around, which I will also tell you anecdotally as a scout parent, I was glad to have a second because I think the first scout book made it through one first year camp out and did not return. So I was glad to have a backup. Think about what kind of gifts you might give your AOL scouts. Look for something meaningful, not necessarily something expensive. And then see if you can get a way for your parents to be involved in planning for summer camp for their first year scouts. Make sure your advancement is properly recorded in scout books so your AOLs get credit before they cross over. And then in February, we're hoping that all of your AOL scouts transition over to a BSA troop in time to register for summer camp. So that is kind of the quick and fast things about a timeline for AOL scouts. I've got another document I'm going to share my screen. Let's see, I'm going to stop sharing this. And I'm going to put up this other document from Fontaine that is some resources. And I think Chris can help us with this. I think these are going to be emailed out to participants afterwards. Chris, is that accurate?
Yes,
Perfect.
tomorrow.
Okay, so know that you'll be getting those, but some resources related to Cubs in general. Fontaine's email address is here. Krista Rose's email address is here. Cub Scout resources, you've got my email address and Daniel Yee's email address. We were lucky enough to go spend a long weekend at Seabase last December to learn about Cub program updates. We're happy to talk to you about those. General Scouting resources, David Burge, who is on the call tonight. His email is here and available for you, as well as Sylvia Dela Cruz and Bill Peck, who is the Atlanta Area Council Advancement Chair. And then where you can go to find more information on Cub Scout advancement in general is there. So know that you'll be getting these documents so you have access to those if you've got more questions. And I think that is all I have to share, but I'd love if there are questions, if any of the things we talked about sparked a thought, if you would like to ask any questions about AOLs.
Can I chime in, Ms.
Absolutely.
Lee? I just want to say that, first of all, thank you to the parents and adult leaders who are on the call here. If you're a Cub Scout leader, you might be sitting there thinking, okay, I saw that great information about how I get the AOLs ready. How do I get myself ready? And I will tell you first and foremost that being an adult leader for a Scout troop is so much easier than being an adult leader for a Cub Scout pack. It's hard to fathom. But trust me when I say if you're in a youth-led troop, doing it the right way, it's amazing how much easier and how much more fun it is because the kids take the lead and you're there for logistics, finance, and safety, really. And if you want to learn how to be a great troop leader, we have training at the council that's available. On November the 9th, we are doing troop leader training. That'll get you trained to be a committee member as a troop and also get you the first half of being an assistant scoutmaster training. The other half is another course called IOLS where you have to go camp in the woods overnight, kind of like Baloo. But that's available on November the 9th. You can sign up for it on Tentaroo. And we'd love to see you at the training event. And if you're wondering why I'm plugging training so hard, it's because I'm the council training chair. So thank you, Mick.
When did you say the Baloo training was?
Oh, well, this is all classroom training. So we just had Baloo a couple of weeks ago. So we don't have another Baloo scheduled until springtime right now at the council level. But Chris, you and I should quickly check the council calendar to see if one of the districts has a Baloo training scheduled. But I don't think there's any Baloo on the calendar right now until spring.
I think that's
There's
accurate.
not on the Atlanta BSA website at all.
Yeah.
I took the pre-Blue, but I still need to do the Blue training. I'm a new den leader and committee chair for our pack.
Oh goodness, you're doing the Lord's work.
Congratulations.
I am.
Yeah.
And I have
Yeah.
an old school AOL leader right now. And I'm not sure how to convince her to have them all crossed over by February.
What do you think her big what does she see as the big challenge to that?
Well, I'll sit down with her. I'm going to have a meeting with her next week after this call. I think the biggest challenge, to be honest with you, is our recruitment just ended like last week. So we just inherited like 45 new cubs. So our pack, and her AOL went from 2 students to 7.
That is exciting and intimidating. I can see how that
Yes.
could make you sit down and take a breath as an AOL leader.
Yes. And she's very experienced, and I have all the faith in the world for her, but we normally cross over in May. At least they have for the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years.
That's a big change.
Megan, can I speak to that for a moment?
Please, we would love that.
Yeah, I'm David Burge. I was a cub leader for 6 years. I was cub master, and then I was a troop leader for I forgot how many years, but and I'm still the COR of the troop, even though my 2 sons are. I'm actually sitting in an empty house now. They do actually leave at some point, but I've looked at that last year for a number of years, and I really believe in the early crossover, the January, February, even December model for a couple reasons. One, and I belong to a pack that wanted to stay till May. I mean, I came from that camp too. So Lori's comment really brought back memories, but this is why I think it's important. First of all, the kids are in 5th grade, have been in Cub Scouts for 5 years. There's a big difference between a 5th grader and a 1st grader and a 2nd grader. We all know that. And they're ready for something new. And a lot of the changes to AOL are to reflect that. So we lose a whole lot of scouts in that 5th grade year. It's probably our biggest drop off. And I think a lot of it's they're just bored and we don't get them into a troop quick enough. And I'm speaking from my council membership, type hat. Secondly, if you get them in early, they're going to be acclimated to the troop when summer camp comes. And I think everyone who has ever had a foot in a scout troop knows that a scout that goes to summer camp for that first year has a much more positive experience. We talked about making Eagle, has a much higher chance of making Eagle because they cover so much material in that year and they come out very fired up. And it's hard to join. It's hard to join a troop in May and immediately pivot and go to summer camp. It's scary to kids to go to something that big. With kids they've only met for a couple of weeks. It's hard for the parents. Parents may have already planned vacation. So getting in January, everyone's comfortable with the troop and signing up for summer camp is a whole lot better, and that will make the whole troop experience much more positive for a whole lot of reasons. One other thing I want to say is, even if you have a troop that is in your same church or your same school and everyone goes there, I think it's worth taking a look at another unit or two just to see the breadth of scouting. It's a big organization. Sean sees it, I see it, Chris sees it, Megan certainly sees it, but a lot of people, this is your one chance to see what scouting looks like in Atlanta. So go take a look. I think it is important that that AOLs cross over with a group of friends and stick together. They're much more likely to stay in the program if they've got a group of friends. But it's certainly worth taking a look at what other troops have to offer, and so you're more comfortable with your decision. But anyway, that's my wisdom for the day.
I'll tell you
I
what.
agree.
Go ahead, Lori.
I was just gonna say, I see like our went from 2 AOLs who've been there for several years. They've moved up through it, and one's a boy and one's a girl, and they both are probably close enough to cross over by February, but the other ones are all brand new, and they're a mix between boys and girls.
And so I think, Lori, with that, because I've spent some time looking at the AOL program, there are a couple of the required adventures, the duty to God and the citizenship and things like that, that can be completed in a pretty concise time frame. And duty to God is still intended if you want to do it as a den, you can, or you can do it at home. So that takes a couple off the list. I think the time-consuming parts of AOL really are planning a camp out and then visiting a troop. Those are the ones that really can be time bound. So if your pack hasn't planned a camping trip yet, that might be something to help with, but it can be just a den event or something like that. But I absolutely get where you're coming from, that if you've got a whole bunch of brand new AOLs, there's a lot to do. Now, here's the other thing I will tell you. We want them to get their AOL rank, but more importantly, kind of like Sean was talking about, we were talking just before we started about moving to Eagle. It's more important that they have a great experience. And if they are having fun in Cub Scouting and are ready to cross over, they can cross over and join Scouting without ever officially earning their AOL rank. And that is absolutely fine. So I would tell you, I think as you're talking with her, to kind of balance the Scout experience for them, because we want them to be excited and enjoy Scouting. We know that meeting rank requirements helps everyone feel successful, and everybody loves a patch and a pin and all of those sorts of things. But I do think it's important to balance getting them excited about ramping up and moving on to Scouts. But it is a challenge.
I just want to echo. I mean, David made some incredibly great points about why it's better to cross over. The summer camp point in particular, let them get established with a troop where they're comfortable and they have friends, and let them know those leaders before they go off to camp for a week with this group of people. It'll be a lot easier for those 12-year-olds or 13-year-olds if they are comfortable. And that's why I think the stay till May approach, while I understand why it's been so popular with some groups, is not as productive when you think about the impact when they get to the troop. The other thing I would say is there are a couple of the AOL adventures that are designed to repeat really the Scout rank requirements. And so there's a lot of that stuff that if you're passionate about finishing the rank requirement for AOL, that's one thing, but they're not going to miss out on some of those really key fundamentals of the Scouting ranks early on. And then the last thing that David said that I want to echo is go see some other troops. Not because you want to be disloyal to your charter org or anything like that, but troops have their own identity and character. And not every troop is the right place for every scout. My sons, when they were crossing over, went and saw 3 or 4 troops, and their AOL den had like 15 kids in it, and they split. 7 went one way and 8 went the other way. And the reason was some of the kids wanted a loud, boisterous, like high energy environment. And some kids were like, I couldn't possibly go to that environment. That place was crazy, right? And you have to make sure that the youth should choose a place where they're comfortable when they're choosing a troop. It should be a place where they feel at home, not just the one that's, sits in the charter org that you were Cub Scouts in, but really go look around and find a good home for your scout. And remember, it's not a marriage. If you pick a troop and it's not working out for you, Atlanta is so blessed to have so many great troops in the Atlanta Area Council. Look around after the fact if you find out that you landed somewhere that's not the right place for you, but keep those kids in Scouting.
That's my plan. Retention, retention, retention.
Absolutely.
So I greatly appreciate all the advice.
And really, Laura, I want to reiterate, you're going to get an email with all of all of our contact information tomorrow. You can reach out to anybody on that list. Everybody on that list has a wealth of experience, and has been sitting in I was the mom who couldn't believe that she was going to cross her kid over into, by the way, Mr. Flaherty's troop at the time. And I was super nervous about it. I didn't want to let my kid go, and been on the other side. So know that there's a lot of folks